Elon Musk is no more messing with monopolistic billionaires such as Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos. His new target is much more powerful than anyone he ever had beef with before. That is, Mr. Vladimir Putin. Mr. Musk felt compelled to take all the necessary actions as soon as Mr. Putin announced the military invasion of Ukraine. He's recently said a lot to the Russian president, some of which does appear a little bit too much. Let's have a look at what Mr. Musk has been saying, which demonstrates whose side he's on in this military conflict. We all know that Elon Musk is unlike any other CEO in the world, and he probably never will be. He is one of the very few CEOs who use social media extensively. Elon spends time tweeting and retweeting, if not responding to some questions that one of his many followers might have. Many consider him quirky, accuse him of being unmanageable, and dread his unpredictable side. On the other hand, others praise that he's never where you expect him to be. For those of you who may have missed it, this is the tale behind the invasion that drove not only Mr. Musk, but other countries around the world to actually pick sides. You all remember the Cold War. It all dates back then. Ukraine was an important part of the Soviet Union during the Cold War. It was the second most populous and powerful of the 15 Soviet republics, serving as the center of the Union's agricultural output, defense industry, and the military, including the Black Sea Fleet and some nuclear weapons as well. Ukraine has been striving to create its own path as a sovereign nation nearly 3 decades after the Union's dissolution and obtainment of the independence. However, before 2014, Ukraine maintained strong social and cultural links with Russia as a former Soviet nation. Since 2014, when Ukraine's Kremlin-friendly president was forced from the office by a popular uprising, Russia and Ukraine have been at odds. Moscow retaliated by annexing the Crimean Peninsula and supporting a separatist insurgency in the east of the nation, where over 14,000 people have already been murdered. As a result, in the spring of last year, Russia began sending troops near its shared border with Ukraine for training exercises which escalated in the autumn. According to the United States estimates, Russia had amassed well over 100,000 troops near the Ukrainian border by February of 2022, and the invasion was actually imminent. Let's get back to Mr. Musk and his position on the war now that we've obtained all the necessary information that led to the current terrible conflict that everybody seems to be terrified of. Mr. Musk was eager to choose his side less than a week after the Russian troops invaded Ukraine. Mr. Musk has demonstrated that he is unlike any other CEO in the world. He took a step further and took a personal stand in the ongoing conflict. Other CEOs only said that their services and goods would no longer be available in Russia, but they never stated clearly where they stood personally. On the other hand, Mr. Musk has made it obvious who he supports, and it is not Russia. The certain apprehension of corporate leaders is similar to their stance on social issues. Maintain your neutrality. You have to believe Mr. Musk is not a graduate of this institution. Thus, the divisive business person has picked his side between Russia and Ukraine and announced it to his 76 million Twitter followers. "Hold strong, Ukraine," read one of Mr. Musk's tweets, encircled by 3 Ukrainian flags, 3 on the left and 3 on the right. It did not end there, however. Mr. Musk felt compelled to say more about the conflict. He followed up with a second tweet to reaffirm his earlier statement of support for the Ukrainian people and the nation. Elon's second tweet expressed his sympathy to the Russians who did not want the conflict to begin, and also my sympathies to the great people of Russia who do not want this, he said in his second tweet. Mr. Musk's decision to support Ukraine comes only days after his other business, SpaceX, supplied Starlink satellite internet access terminals to Ukraine. Mikhailo Fedorov, Ukraine's vice prime minister, had confronted the billionaire on Twitter. Mr. Musk did warn that Russian hackers or malevolent actors are very likely to target these Starlink terminals. Mr. Musk does have a knack for making jokes out of practically everything. This time he selected one that seemed to be on the verge of becoming totally unbelievable. Mr. Musk has done something unexpected to try to stop the Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It would be one of the most beautiful posters of combat since the unforgettable duel between Muhammad Ali and George Foreman in Kinshasa, Zaire in 1974. If it weren't for the stakes and circumstances, the liberation of a nation and an invasion that has already killed hundreds of people and displaced millions of others. This battle, called the Rumble in the Jungle, continues to excite boxing fans and historians. Mr. Musk is pitted against Vladimir Putin, a former KGB secret agent who has unquestionably become the world's most hated man since February the 24th. Faced against the lack of a political solution to stop the Russia's invasion of Ukraine, social media is betting on a potential battle between the two men, as Mr. Musk has urged. On his Twitter account, the billionaire tweeted, "I now challenge Vladimir Putin to single battle. The stakes are in Ukraine," he said. It's worth noting that Putin has yet to reply to the contractor's most recent proposal. Mr. Musk, on his side, emulates the historical tradition of dueling associated with honor in the 15th century and has yet to specify how he envisions this duel. Would it be, for example, a death match? Is it going to be with guns? Is this a boxing match? When and where would the duel be held? Is there going to be a referee? And what would be the ground rules? So far, he has said that this idea is serious and that he does not seek guidance on recommendations from anybody. Mr. Musk has begun sending signals to prove his sincerity to those still perplexed by his goals. Then Mr. Musk tagged the Kremlin Twitter account, which is branded as the Russian president, and asked in Russian, "Do you consent to this fight?" The suggestion was extensively circulated online, with around 70,000 retweets and quotes. Dmitry Rogozin's comment stood out among the many that Mr. Musk received, with a mysterious phrase from an ancient Russian fairy tale. Russia's former deputy prime minister and current director general of Roscosmos, the Russian space agency, responded, "You little devil are too young to take me on. It's a waste of time. Have a go at my brother instead." Rogozin quotes from The Tale of the Priest and his workman Balda. Unfazed by Putin's lack of direct response and Rogozin's unexpected response, Mr. Musk spoke directly to the politician and raised the stakes. He made a joke about offering Rogozin additional per-view money, a tactic often reserved for boxing matches negotiations. Mr. Musk wrote, "I see you are a tough negotiator. Okay, you can have 10% more pay-per-view money." Along with the post, Mr. Musk proposed that Rogozin chose between a naked Vladimir Putin riding a bear across a stream and Mr. Musk wielding a flamethrower. He can even bring his bear, Mr. Musk suggested, giving Putin an added advantage. Putin is known for his claims of martial arts proficiency, albeit the International Taekwondo Organization recently revoked his black belt. Still, Mr. Musk can also claim to be an expert in the field. During an appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast back in 2020, he discussed his childhood experiences with Taekwondo, Karate, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and Judo. Rogozin responded, not backing down from the battle, by bringing up an old Musk tweet in which Mr. Musk claimed that at least 50% of his tweets are sent from a porcelain throne. "Elon, come off the toilet, then we'll discuss," Rogozin wrote in Russian. Mr. Musk now has the opportunity to respond. Well, what are your views on the issue? Let us know in the comment section below. And as usual, thanks for watching.